Cool. So this section is going to look at governance and compliance, these topics. We're going to look at subscriptions and accounts, Azure policy, role-based access control. We're going to discuss these topics in here. Now, let's have a look at this section. So we're going to talk about subscriptions and accounts. Part of this one, we're going to talk about regions, Azure subscriptions, getting a subscriptions usage, cost management, resource tags, cost savings. So we're going to look at some of the stuffs around these areas. So regions, a region represents a collection of data centers, provides flexibility and scale, preserves data residency, select regions close to your users. So that means when you created your account, even the trial account, that time they asked for the regions, right? So when you choose the regions, you will have data centers over there. So be aware of regions deployment availability. There are global services that are regions independent. Regions are paired for high availability. So regions, they are related with many things, your subscriptions, your account, your pricing, also some of the features may be available in a particular regions. So worldwide, there are 60 plus regions representing 140 countries. So Microsoft got many different regions around the globe. So Azure subscriptions, the logical unit of Azure services that is linked to an Azure account. Security and billing boundary that is related with these subscriptions or services. When you create one account and under that account, whatever subscriptions you have, and based on whatever resources you use, based on that, you'll get bills and other things. So it includes accounts identities in Azure Active Directory or in a directory that is trusted by Azure AD, such as work or school organization. So let's say we create one account, but account will be related with some subscriptions. It could be one subscriptions or it could be more than one subscriptions. Usually you can create one for development subscriptions, that purposes. One is for the test subscriptions, one for the production subscriptions. In this way, it will be easy for you to control the account and resources and billing and cost as well. And each of the subscriptions under that, let's say you deploy some virtual machines, database, other networking services. So some services running under this, each of the subscriptions. Now, getting a subscriptions enterprise agreement, customers make an upfront monetary commitment and consume services throughout the year. Or you can have resellers provide a simple, flexible way to purchase cloud services. Or partner services can design and implement your Azure cloud solutions. Personal free account, which is we are using currently. So in this way, you can get these subscriptions. Maybe your company may have enterprise agreement with Microsoft, or maybe your company purchase subscriptions from one of the Microsoft resellers or from the partners, they get this account. Subscriptions usage is a free account. Now they provide more credit, includes a $200 credit for the first 30 days, free unlimited access for 12 months. After that, you'll have some services you'll be able to use for next 1 year time. Pay as you go, so that charges you monthly. Enterprise, one agreement with discounts for new licenses and software assurance, targeted at enterprise scale organizations. Student will get $100 for 12 months, must verify the student access. So this kind of subscriptions we have, and these are the usage types. This is kind of like a monthly. This is kind of like a enterprise discount you'll get with license and other things, and student will get this much of credit.
So the free one's better.
For 1 month, yeah. But after 1 month, some of the services you'll not be able to use. Only like under the free subscription, there are some certain services you'll be able to use.
Oh, sure.
Not everything. That's the reason they provide some credit so you can create some stuff, you can look at some stuffs. Now, cost management, conduct cost analysis, create a budget, review recommendations, and export the data. Cost management, we mostly work around that areas. When you go to cost management, we'll be able to bring the cost and break down the cost as well. For what resources, how much money we spend, we'll be able to see from there. Resource tag, it provides metadata for your Azure resources. Tag means, for example, you create one virtual machines for your marketing department. So you tagged marketing. So that means whatever cost associated with that virtual machines is actually related with your marketing department. Then maybe you have another department, IT.
Like a cost center.
Yes. So when you create anything, when you use something in the cloud, you can tag that one. And when you tag, then later on, it will be easy for you to understand how this money has been spent over there. So provides metadata for your Azure resources, logically organize resources into taxonomy, consists of a name value pair, very useful for rolling up billing informations. Now, cost savings, Azure reservations helps you save money by prepaying for services. Azure hybrid benefits, use Windows servers and SQL servers on premises licenses with software assurance. Azure credits, monthly credit benefit that allow you to experiment with, develop and test new solutions on Azure. Regions, choose low cost locations and regions. So it has some pay as you go, you pay pretty much a bit more, maybe this one you can save a bit, this one you can save a bit. So it has some how to save the cost. Maybe if you preserve something, that's where you save. If you have a hybrid infrastructure, that's where you save. If you get some credit because of your subscriptions or something, that maybe help you to save costing over there. Regions, some regions will be cheaper. Some regions will be a bit expensive. So let's have a look few things around subscriptions. If I go to my portal, this is my portal. And if I want to go to subscriptions, if I go down all the way, there's a cost and billing. So let's click on that one, cost and plus billing. And under that, yeah, we can see here, this is my subscriptions, active subscriptions. And subscriptions name is a MSDN platform subscriptions. Even if I click on these subscriptions, I can see the same thing. I have one active account, another inactive account.
I can't see that exactly.
It's sometimes, yeah, when you create a free trial account,
Yeah.
it may things located in different places. Best thing you can do, just search for subscriptions on the search options. It will find you the locations.
Oh, there it is.
Got it? So you can see these steps. Now, after that, we have in here cost management. So currently, we haven't done anything. That's why there's no costing in here. Right? Overview is nothing. Access control. We don't have much things in here. Cost analysis.
Then you're starting pretty with 280. Maybe it's gone up.
Yeah, it's, I think currently it's 280. Yeah. Yeah. Cost analysis. So it will show us some breakdown in this way, kind of unable to load because we do not have any resources at the moment. That's why it's not showing anything. But mostly we are looking at here. This is the locations. You can see the cost. Later on, we'll be back in here and then we'll see some values in here. Invoice, payment method, Azure subscriptions. Oh, I got some groups here somehow. Yeah. And you can create some. So in here, mostly you're looking at cost management, your subscriptions. This is the locations you can see in details. So this is my subscriptions. If you click on subscriptions, they will get all these stuffs. And under that, this is overview, subscriptions and stuffs. We have, tags. Delete this stuff. Delete these things. Yeah. So I can create some tag. For example, I create marketing value, maybe 1, then IT, maybe value 2, like that. So in this way, we can create individual tag. Tag means later on when you create any resources, that time it will be helpful for us to identify the stuffs. It's applying. You can see the notifications in here. Notifications will tell whether it's done or not. So when you apply, it may take a bit of time, but after that, should be fine. Yes, so it's done for me. So I got like 2 tags. So they're all together. This is your subscriptions overview. What kind of subscriptions you have, your directory, default directory under your subscriptions. That means default one we using, but you can create your own directory as well. You can see some, details, tags, and we have the cost management areas in here. And we'll have billing areas in here and some settings you can do from here as well. Now, let's create one of the virtual machines and later on we'll be able to see some values around that. So I'll go to menu, click on virtual machines. Click on add virtual machine. And then this is the subscriptions. Research group means we need to select some group. So I'll create new and just say research group, research group 1 probably. Click OK. And virtual machine's name, VM1. And region, we have East US 2 selected. That's okay. In my case, your case, maybe it could be different.
Mine's just ECUS.
Okay, I'll select East US as well. It's the same. And availability options, this is a little bit default. Image, we're going to use Windows servers, data centers, generation 1. 2016 data centers, Gen 1, yeah. If you go down a bit, there should be size of the memory, CPU, memory informations, and you can see on the bracket. So if you choose this disk, yes, for virtual CPU, 16 gig memory cost $192.
I had to click on all sizes.
You just click on drop down and pick up one of them, kind of like that.
Did you want to check?
Oh, yeah.
So with the 80,
Yeah, that's fine. You select the first one.
is that okay?
Yeah. Then
Then
after that, you need to put username and password. But username and password need to be password need to be a bit long character. I think 12 characters, something like that.
So is this just any username and password I want to create?
Yeah, this username and password is required to log into these virtual machines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Username I created Zahid. Password. Password I just make it a bit longer. Capital RATUTE 2018 2018 like that. After that, there are some other things in here. Public inbound ports, allow selected ports, RDP 3389. So this port need to be open in order to log into these virtual machines. And review and create. Click review and create on the bottom here. And then it will give you summary, running final validations. See, that's what 26 cents per hour. Based on many, whatever you select, but it's very difficult to calculate because how many gig RAM you choose, what CPU you choose, and this is a roughly around indications how long your virtual machines will be running based on that. So based on many factors, it's come out 26 cents per hour. Maybe you got 8 GB RAM, that's why. Yes. So click create. So deployment in progress, right? So that means your virtual machines is creating now. Once you create this one, so it's done at the moment. This is your virtual machines, one of the machines is running. So that's in the cloud. And once you create these virtual machines, it's got many steps. We're going to discuss all details maybe later on, but as you can see, it has public IP address already. And this is the public IP address. With that, you'll have access from outside world. Open in mobile, these things. So slowly once, yeah, now you can open the virtual machines from your mobile and see the servers. So yeah, I didn't see this one, before. Yeah. Now, once it's ready, then I can click on connect. And then I have multiple options. How do I log into that VM? I click on RDP.
One said deployment successful.
Cool.
And then I'm on the overview page. So
Yep. You click on overview and connect on the top. Yep, go to resources. Go to, see down, go to resources. Yeah, this one, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It will take you there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now you got connect. Yeah, cool. Yeah. RDP, yes. If you click on RDP, then you'll get this page. It says public IP is this one, port 3389, download the RDP file. If you click on download RDP file, then I'll download in anywhere, maybe in my download folder. So this is my RDP file. If I open my RDP file, say connect, then this is the username and password we just created. So once you put username and password, you'll be able to log into that virtual machines. After that, you can deploy many other stuff. As you can see, same like on-premises Windows servers, we have a same Windows servers in the cloud. And you can do many different sort of configurations in here. If you want to deploy something, you want to run some services, deploy some applications, you can manage from here. So that means you do not need any infrastructures. Mostly you can use their infrastructures to create your virtual machines. And if you'd like to access that one, you got RDP, you got SSH as well, many different ways you can connect to the services. Okay. Now, once you create this one, it may generate some cost and stuffs. So I'll go to menu and cost management. Maybe it will take a bit of time, but they will pick up, some of the stuffs now. No cost reported during this period. So it will take a bit of time, right? So it'll populate some data. Later on, we'll be able to see some data. Okay. So we have looked at mostly subscriptions, cost, and tags. Tags we also going to use. Let's say, for example, if I go to my portal again, if I go to this menu and see the virtual machines, click on virtual machines. And this is my virtual machines one. And I have tags in here. In these tags, I can say marketing and number one, and then apply. That's how you can add, like this VM will be used for marketing purposes, whatever they do over there. So that's how you tag particular resources with your Azure subscriptions. And with that tag, you'll be able to classify your cost as well. Let's say 5 different VM using by this marketing department or other things they're using. So all the marketing department cost, you'll be able to classify. So it will take a bit of time, but that's okay. Now we go back to the portal again. Now we have Azure policy. Part of this one, we're going to discuss management groups, Azure policy, implementing Azure policy, policy definitions, create initiative definitions, scope the initiative definitions, determine compliance, right? These topics you're going to look at. Management groups. It provides a level of scope above subscriptions. Targeting of policies and spend budget across the subscriptions and inheritance down the hierarchies. Compliance and cost reporting by organizations, business and teams. Mostly we have root management groups in here. Under that we have, let's say, human resource, IT, marketing, different groups. Under each of the groups, you have subscriptions like DevOps under them. Then under the marketing, they have free trial account. Or under productions, you have Geo Region 1 and Region 2. Under that, you have some subscriptions. So this is kind of like a hierarchical management. It will provide you the details subscriptions informations. So you can manage in this way. Mostly reporting areas, it's good. It's more on for management purposes. It doesn't have any technical benefits, but more on understanding which subscriptions is part of what particular groups, that area it will work. So later on, we'll see this one. Now, Azure policy. Azure policy is a service in Azure that you use to create, assign, and manage policies. Azure policy runs evaluations and scans for non-compliance resources. Advantages: enforcement and compliance, apply policies at scale, and remediation. So these are the advantages we have. So basically, Azure policy is kind of alternative to group policy. We do not have any group policy, but with Azure policy, we can control, users, computers, those kind of things in the cloud. So usage cases allow resource types, specify the resource types that your organizations can deploy. What like a VM deployment, storage account deployment, so application deployment, you can control with this policy how that deployment can happen. You can manage some policy around that. Allowed virtual machines SKUs, specify a set of virtual machines SKUs that your organizations can deploy. Allowed locations, restrict the locations your organizations can specify when deploying resources. Required tag and its value, enforces a required tag and its value. Azure backup should be enabled for virtual machines. Audit if Azure backup service is enabled for all virtual machines. See, this kind of things you can configure with policy. Like when you create any resources, you must have to use the tag. And when you create any VM or any resources, you must have to choose a particular locations. So you can set up these kind of things. So implementing Azure policy, we have browse policy definitions. That means many policy we have already in the cloud. We can simply use them, or we can create new one as well. You can create new initiative definitions, scope the initiative definitions, view the policy evaluation results. And policy definitions, many policy definitions are available. You can import policies from GitHub. Policy definitions have a specific JSON format. You can create custom policy definitions. And create definitions, group policy definitions include one or more policies. Under the initiative definitions, you can add multiple policies, and you need to have a planning for that, like what you want to execute, what you want to do with those systems. So scope the initiative definitions. You can assign the definitions to a scope. So the scope means kind of like subscriptions. The scope enforces the policy. Select the subscriptions and optionally the source group. So you create one policy, you can apply the policy to subscriptions. And once you have done, you'll be able to see the compliance. You'll be able to see like all the device, they are compliant or not, is any other issues or not, right? So those things you'll be able to see. Non-compliant initiatives, non-compliant policies, non-compliant resources, you'll be able to see. So let's have a look at this policy. If I go to my subscriptions, we search for Azure policy. Just click on policy. But under that, let's say I got some of these tabs. So we have overview. Overview will show you whether you have any policy under your subscriptions or not. If we go down a bit, we have assignments. There's an assignment name, audit virtual machines without disaster recovery configured. Like there are some policy in here, audit VMs that do not use managed disk. Managed disk is kind of like disk provided by the Azure Azure portal, and unmanaged disk means like you add your own disk over there. Like from on-premises, you can add some virtual disk to cloud. So that is called unmanaged disk. Audit VMs do not use managed disk. Audit VMs that do not use managed disk, why too? Azure backup should be enabled for virtual machines. Like this kind of policy you can assign. So I got actually eight of the policy already assigned in here. Yeah, I can delete if I want, yeah. Now if I click on definitions, under definitions, we have policy definitions and initiative definitions. So if I click on initiative definitions, so they are kind of all initiative definitions. It means some policy we have in here. Let's say if I create audit virtual machines with insecure password security, this is one of the policy. Audit machines with insecure password security settings. This is one of the name of this policy, initiative policy. And under that, we have some other breakdown, such as audit Windows machines that do not have maximum password age of 70 days, audit virtual machines that do not have minimum password age of 1 day. So these are the policy, individual policy. That policy created in JSON format. JSON is another, format which pretty similar to not PowerShell, but this is another language with that can create the policy and stuffs.
It's more like BBS.
Yes. But if you go back in here, so there are many different policy is already created. If I go to only, this is initiatives. If I go to policy only,
Smart system.
yeah, this is many different policy. Audit virtual machines without disaster recovery configured. If I click on that one, so someone created this policy. It's a default policy we have. So if I go back again, so there are many different policy we have in here, many of them. So based on your planning and requirements, you need to choose one from here. So they are kind of like a group policy. Now let's say if I click on Windows machine should meet minimum meet requirements for security options, user account control, like that. If I want to assign this policy to someone, scope means why you want to allow this policy. I want to allow this policy to my subscriptions. And any resource group. Today, this morning, we create one of the resource group called RG1. Whatever under that, we have to apply this policy. This policy, Windows machine should meet requirements for security options, user account control. So they should follow these, requirements and policy. After that, there's some other options, but simply you can say review and create and create. Created policy. If I go to that policy, if I click on assignments, see, I got now 9. This is the new one. As audit virtual machines without disaster recovery configured. So I've configured this one. Let's say this is 2. I'll remove 1. It's gone, right? So this is the policy definitions, and this is the initiative definitions. So what is the difference in between two? Initiative definitions, it contain some one or more policy underneath. But policy, we have individual policy. If I click here, initiative means you got like these are the initiatives. Like enable Azure monitor for virtual machine. This is one of the initiative. If I click on this one, underneath, there are many other policy. They are all related with these monitoring stuffs. Azure VM monitoring stuffs.
So for the system to create an initiative, you need to put multiple policies and it automatically turns it into an initiative. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for example, you have to create one initiative definitions, name it like initiative like that. And what purposes you're creating. After that, you have what policy you want to add, then you add the policy definitions. So initiative definitions contain other policy definitions, which is selected one. You need to select from here. What are the things you want to create altogether? Maybe it's kind of like you organize these things. So you got multiple policy you can add, and then it will be under that. groups, initiative parameters, policy parameters, they're optional options you can create in this way. Okay.
And to understand all of these different policies that are currently set in the environment, do they have like a GUI where you can find out what each one means, what it does, etc., etc.?
This one actually doesn't have any GUI.
Okay.
This one mostly you can use this one. So it has descriptions, but if you'd like to create your own, there's a template, many different template, you can import those policy. You do not have to create directly, but if really want your own policy, then you need to use that JSON format. Other than that, you can import this one. There's many template available in online. Microsoft they have their, GitHub. GitHub is one of the locations where you can download some development stuffs, mostly. Developer, they're using the GitHub. Same like Microsoft, you can download many policy and stuff from there. But mostly we add, some policy. Let's say I'll delete some of them, then I'll. Let's say if I go to definitions, and under that, maybe I go to some policy, like many different policy definitions, like audit virtual machines without disaster recovery. This is one of the important policy, let's say, and we can assign this policy to our subscriptions. Can assign, and then you need to find scope. Scope means your subscriptions. This is your subscriptions and research group. After that, we can review and create. So once you create this policy, then how to check this one? If you go to policy and click on compliance, so you'll be able to see, then it will apply automatically to your entire subscriptions. Then you'll see the policy. Let's say overall resource compliance 0%, resource by compliance state, 3 non-compliant stuff found. Something happened in here. Non-compliant, like this one, Azure backup should be enabled, is not, done. Disk encryption is not compliant. If you click one of them, then you can see a bit more details. VM1 non-compliant. See, already is picked up. So that means if we enable the backup and other things, then you will get a result saying that it has been configured. So you can pick up from here. Non-compliance policies 45 out of 200. But that's how you can see. Okay. So with policy, these sort of things pretty much you can do. Ritesh, are you following?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But I can't do the critical now because it's not still allowing me to create the account, the Azure account.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not to worry, I'll provide you the recording as well, so you can follow from there.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So if I go there, This is all about policy. Then other things we have called role-based access control. So this section is going to discuss role-based access control, role definitions, role assignment, Azure RBAC roles versus Azure AD administrator roles, RBAC authentications, Azure RBAC roles, and all these stuffs. So role-based access control, it provides fine-grained access management of resources in Azure. So built on Azure Resource Managers, segregated duties within your team grant only the amount of access to users that they need to perform their jobs. So Azure has two kind of access control. One is like a role-based. Another one is, let's say Azure role-based. Another one is kind of like 365 or Office 365 roles. So two different roles. So these role definitions, concept, security principle, object that represents something that is requesting access to resources. Role definitions, collecting of permissions that list the operations that can be performed. Scope, boundary for the level of access that is requested. An assignment, attaching a role definitions to a security principle at a particular scope, such as user can grant access described in a role definitions by creating an assignment. Deny assignments are currently read-only and are set by Azure blueprints in Azure managed apps. So this is role definitions, collections of permissions that list the operations that can be performed. We have owner, contributor, reader, so we got multiple roles, many different roles. We have backup operators and so on. Let's say contributor can modify things. Owner will have full control. Reader will have a read access. They are pretty similar to NTFS, permissions, but they are actually in the cloud. So you can select from here, built-in one, or you can create as well. Let's have a look. If I go to that subscriptions, if I go overview, so if I go to virtual machines, yeah.
Nice and soft going around.
Yeah.
Everyone's probably.
I think it's very cold.
Ah.
Just like.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit cold here. Now, let's say this is our virtual machines. If I open these virtual machines, you can see there's an access control. So you can provide access to someone. You can add, click on add and say role assignment. If you click role assignment, then you can select a role, such as you want to make someone owner, contributor. Let's say I want to make someone, contributor. So assigned access to users group and service principal and select. So user was Bob, right? We created Bob. The Bob is here, Bob Jane. When did I create like that? I created, oh, understand. You know what happened? On-premises user account came up because we established the sync. That's why I got 3, because on premises I had other Bob as well. Yeah. So this is actually the real one. Yeah. This one I created today. Yeah. So I selected whatever I wanted to create and then click save. So that means Bob will be able to, maintain something around that VM1. Bob is not the owner, but Bob will be able to manage this VM contributor. So that's a role assignment. But if I go to here, Azure Active Directory, over there, if I go to users, or if I go to, let's say, roles and administrators, we have different roles over there. It's kind of, one is Azure side of roles, which is, we call it RBAC. But Office 365 related roles, that is kind of like, you have a global admin, you have a, user admin. That kind of role is related with all of them. They are related with your, all these roles, they're related with your Office 365. So 2 kinds of roles we have. One is for entire cloud side, and another is for Office 365 side. But if you are a global admin, you'll be able to manage pretty much both sides. Like this printer administrators, printer technician, security operator, all these teams communications administrators. So those things, they are related with Office 365 side. So that is called regular, role assignment. But RBAC is the Azure side. Now, if I go in here, this is the Azure, role definitions. Now, role assignments, the process of binding a role definitions to a user, group, or service principal at a scope for the purpose of granting access. Let's say this is users, groups, service principals we have. And under the role definitions, we have owner, contributor, reader, all these role stuffs we have. And role assignment, you can assign roles to a particular groups. And this side you have the scope. Scope means your subscriptions or your resource group. That's how you can bind a particular role with particular groups and subscriptions. That's how, at the beginning, when we have looked at, when you have a multiple subscriptions, let's say salespeople, they have a different group, management group. Other people, they have a different group. So you provide a different level of access to different people. So this is the comparison, Azure RBAC roles versus Azure AD roles, 2 things. Azure RBAC roles manage access to Azure resources. Scope can be specified at multiple levels. Role informations can be accessed in the Azure portal, Azure CLI, PowerShell, Azure Resource Manager templates, REST APIs around there. But the Azure AD roles manage access to Azure AD objects. Scope is at the tenant level, and role informations can be accessed in Azure portal, Office 365, admin portal, Microsoft Graph, Azure Active Directory, PowerShell or Graph. So this is for different purposes, right? Cool. Classic administrator roles should be avoided if using Azure Resource Manager. Don't worry about this part because this is very old. We are not using classic administrator role at all. We have now, Azure Resource Managers, and that role we are using. So RBAC authentications. So Azure AD admin roles, global admin, application developer, billing admin, Azure Active Directory tenant, and you have a RBAC roles in here. Under the subscriptions, you have other resources. It's just some of the permissions level. If your owner has full access to everything, note Azure service administrator and co-administrators are assigned the owner role at the subscription scope. This applies to all resource types. Contributor creates and manages all types of Azure resources but cannot grant access to others. This applies to all resource types. Reader views Azure resources. This applies to all resource types. User access administrators, so manage user access to Azure resources. This applies to managing access rather than to managing resources, right? This is kind of definitions of what it is. So you'll get some questions around all the systems, what we are talking about. So multiple choice questions. Last time we have, so lab, I'm not really sure recently, not sure, but is multiple choice questions. There is no lab, but in other Microsoft exam they have added the lab. So possibly this Azure course they may add some labs, but that lab will be reasonable. What we are doing, it will be around that. So these things we have looked at. So pretty much we have role assignment, roles, and all these systems. So that's pretty much about these sections. Mostly we need to look at the roles, groups, how to assign, so this sort of stuff.